So you turn and you face what you got and you think, okay, survival of the fittest, is it? They're good having love here. Yeah, it's a weakness. Yeah, you will die if you try to talk love around here. Yeah, and then you just become who you are. Touch me, you're getting a shiver in your heart. You come near me, you get a baseball bat over your head. That's not happening to me. What they did to me, you're not doing it to me either, mate.
Young soldier of God, steady march.
Yeah,
steady march.
My full name is Fete Taito.
Steady march.
Fete, everybody just calls me Fete. And my nickname was Feets back in the day. I'm from my parents, both parents, mum and dad from Samoa. My mum's from a district called Aana, and her village is called Fete. And my father's from the great village, the district of Whalearili, and the village is Kafkafa. But I was born here in central Auckland and grew up in Ponsonby and Greyland. Yeah, like most of our Pacific Island families, they came here. My parents would have been the first, migrated here in the 50s, along with a whole lot of other Pacific Islanders, and found their little community in Greyland, Ponsonby, and in central Auckland. There was other areas like Newton, Kingsland, but yeah, in the main Greyland and Ponsonby, and it was beautiful living in those times, because just a whole sea of brown faces everywhere, up at Ponsonby Road, all the way Williamson Avenue, up into K Road, just all our people walking, doing shopping, everyday things, and so it was it's great. It was great growing up in that area. My dad was a watersider down the wharf, and my mum was a nurse. And she worked at the children's hospital, the children ward at the Auckland Hospital, and she did night shift. Usually finished around 6 in the morning. She started at about 10, 11. So my dad worked in the wharf for over 20, 25 years, something. He was at Hallaby's, the corned beef and support. So yeah, he was there, and then he changed at some time when I was young. I can't remember, but pretty much growing up, I just remember him being a watersider. I went to school, at Richard Road Primary. I started off there until Standard 3. I don't know what they call that now in terms of year, but I got to Standard 3, and when I moved to intermediate, my parents decided to move me over to Marist Brothers Catholic convent in Ponsonby, and and so the difficulty for my parents, and I guess for a lot of Pacific Island parents at that time, was they moving from a village, a small country, a village-like environment to an urban setting in a foreign country, and the difficulty in trying to navigate their pathway through a country that foreign language and different culture, different ways of bringing up. And I suppose for me, my father's strict discipline, got the better of me, I guess one could say. And I started playing up at intermediate, and was starting to run away from that sort of stuff. And then by the time I was like 13, I had done it quite a bit, and so now the police were aware of me, and so were the social welfare, and then inevitably they started picking me up, and eventually they took me back a few times, tried me in foster care, and then in the end they made me a state ward and jammed me into into Oiraka Boys Home. I think that was about 1976. The courts tried to send me back to Samoa. Well, they actually sent me back to Samoa. It was quite a thing. Judges hearing about how kids in Samoa in the islands were brought up in a very strict discipline and God-fearing sort of way, and they felt that might work, so they took me back to my dad took me back to Samoa for that, and that didn't work. They brought me back, and so by the time I was 14, I was in the care of social welfare, and I had done a couple of stints in Oiraka Boys Home, which was, my first one was they stuck me to secure both times, but secure was a bit of an eye opener for me. There were cells rather than dorms, and they got you out of bed 6 a.m, do your stuff up and your beds up, and they get you up 6 a.m, and you start running around this yard, and at times sometimes bare feet, and they just make you run around this yard, and just until they told you to stop, go for a shower. There was during that one time that during the shower, one of the they called them housemasters, the ones that look after you. He came in and tried to drive me off, but as a kid, you have been on the street, your survival instinct kicks in here, and he's trying to hold the towel out to you, just to say, come and I'll dry you. You're looking at him, but there's something not right here. I say, oh, no, just pass me the towel. And, his comment was, oh, a shy one, and he threw a towel to me. But those were the sort of things that were happening in there. And unfortunately for some of my my bros in there, they were, they were sexually abused. And
how were the workers, and how were the officers and that, and the boys' homes that you experienced over the next few years? And
those housebusters?
Yeah.
How were they?
Yeah.
There were some good ones, but a whole lot of bad ones. And one of the things they used to get us to do was the Sunday boxing game. I don't know if they called it Sunday boxing, but I remember one of the survivors naming it Sunday boxing. Was, for me at the time when they said it, I went, oh yeah, maybe that's what they used to call it. But they put us up against other boys, the screws, the housebusters, and for their enjoyment, and just watch us punch each other up and not step in unless the one that they want to win was losing. And then they step in, and the one that's beating them, they throw them into secure. That sort of shit they were doing to the boys, to the young boys, to us young fellas. And backing on to Oiraka Boys Home, the front of the place in Oiraka Ave, they used to have houses, and that's where all the housemasters used to stay. And, used to work behind their places. And one time when I was working there, not long after I got there, or got familiar with the place, I asked one of my mates, "Oh, how come he's allowed to go into the house and clean the house? How do we get that number?" And my mate said, "Bro, you don't want that job." I said, "Hey, nah, you don't want to go in there, bro." It wasn't until later on I realised that that's where the abuse was happening. It's the sexual abuse. They were taking vulnerable, we're all vulnerable kids, but they were taking the most vulnerable ones. They were taking them in there and, doing their bullshit on them, and abusing them. And so, so that was an environment, I guess, for me, looking back at that. There was an environment there that had really been created, that we walked into that, into an environment with our own innocence, I guess, and we walked in there, and then all that is around you. Guys are teaching each other how to, no, this is how you jump the cars, and, these locks, and all, everybody's talking crime and how to do this, how to do that, how to survive on the street. And so, for me, looking back at it, that's all, that environment was, a whole lot of
a breeding ground.
Yeah, like breeding ground, but more importantly, I think it's more, breeding, growing up in that environment was just, nobody's talking about, oh, my dad's a lawyer, or my dad's an accountant, or, where, all you hear is like their dads, all our dads are working class men who, are trying, especially with, and for we just, the brown boys always come together, and I think back at it as people think that because all the bad things that are happening to us are coming from white housemasters, Pākehā housemasters, and done to us, even the principal, his name was Rickett of the place, he was a bad man, punching over, smacking kids, literally punching them and booting them. He booted me in the backside once as I was walking out the door. Yeah. So when you have a principal of a place doing that, it enables all those housemasters to do whatever. But those experiences in the boys' home, bro, was just, it was like, and where they take you out and then you end up in foster care where more views are, and you have to, anything you want, like, we have to talk to the house parent, and in this case, Benny Walk from Aranui Hostel. They were running a lot of, she ran a few houses in the central Auckland area, at Ponsonby as well. But she had, she was looking after mainly adult prisoners coming out. And that was my first sort of interaction with gang members, like fully seeing Patch was at these houses and thinking, oh, hell, you hear the kids talking about black power, my dad's in it, my uncle's in it, my, different family members are in it. And you picture it, you think, oh, yeah, because you see in the pictures on TV or, but then they're right there with you. You go, whoa, that's it there, it's like, all right. These guys are pretty good. They're pretty cool. So, I was introduced to that in about 77, seeing them once I was in Betty's care, And so, I saw, that's why I ran into a few of the blacks, knockers, gypsy. I ran into them in those places. They were a bit older than me, but social welfare just needed somewhere for me to be able to stay. That was my problem, staying in one particular place. Because I would run away from everywhere, run away from home, run away from any place they put me at. And because our favourite place, we were when the street kids were underneath the Grafton Bridge. There was winter, there was us underneath there for sleeping. It's funny, because we were on the streets together, and then somebody would disappear, somebody else would disappear, we all disappear, and then we get the boys saying, oh, did they get you? What are we able to use? They got me, and so we were all meeting up again, and as we're all getting caught and plucked off by the state, and that's the sort of life I had until I started my first borstal, youth prison.
You were introduced to like the Polynesian Panthers around this time as well.
Yeah. So the Polynesian Panthers, I met them because those days as street kids, we were always looking for abandoned council houses. The city council had abandoned warehouses and grains there everywhere around the city, and we were able to, we go, oh, this is a council house, and we'll park up there until somebody complained, and we'll take off. So next door to the Polynesian Panther place in our headquarters in Redmond Street, they were number 14, number 12, I think, or 16 were, I was in the abandoned house. And so we were parked up there. We were hiding off in there, and then we were there for a couple of nights, and then one of the kids went, "Oh my God, look, there's all these gang members next door." And we clicked up to the window. There was no window, but just, we had a look, and we saw these guys in berets, black berets and afros, and we go, "Holy shit." And I saw a couple of guys, and I recognized them from church, and oh God, those guys came to our church. I think those are that's my cousins. And there was Alec and Wayne Toliafoa. Afterwards, we were watching them having a feed, and afterwards, when they all left, I thought everybody had left, but I didn't realise that Langi, was one of my, we became good friends after this. He was a Panther. He was living next door, and he was looking after the place as well. But I snuck in behind there, and the back door was open, and there was food on the so I grabbed it and took it back to the kids. There was 6 of us there at the time, and we were all eating it because it was corned beef, simple. And then the Māori said, "Oh, what's that food they're eating, that red meat?" And I went, "No, that's called pisupu, that's what we have." And he, "Hey, what's that?" "Those are in those cans, eh?" I went, yeah, no, it's good, man. So when I went out, I got some, I brought it over, and we were eating it, and then we heard this big booming voice. "Hey, you kids!" And we looked up, and there was this big dogged guy. His name was Lucky, and he was like, "Hey, don't eat to steal food, you'll come ask us." We were like, "Oh yeah, okay, sorry." And so I went out and said, "Sorry." He goes, "What's your name?" And that's how I got in there. He said, "Tell the kids come." And we all went in, and he said, "Have some drink." And he said, Don't steal. We're the Panthers, and blah, blah. We're all the same as you. What are you, Samoan? I went, "Yeah, I'm a Samoan." He went, "Yeah, what are you, Raro?" He said, "Yeah, we all try to help you." So he's trying to tell us in his broken English, what they do there. We went, "Oh, yeah." And in my head was, I'm not going to tell him anymore because I don't want to tell Alec and wait to tell their force that I was there. But anyway, that started the relationship with me and the Panthers. And so, over the years after that, not long after that, I met Tingi Nama. Tingi Nama became my whānau parents, I call them. They from that day on was like, I met them when I was 14, and I just kept going back everywhere I ran away from. I went back to their place and back to the Panthers. So we did things like I helped them give out your rights of the police cards along K Road before the Pacific Island, because obviously the Dawn Raids was happening, and the Dawn Raids was happening, and the Panthers had, I think, little brown cards, and they said your rights with the police. And I used to get a bunch of them from the Panthers and go around on Thursday night, because it was gay road shopping. On Thursday night, it was just you couldn't move in K Road. Just so many of our people doing shopping, and it was crazy. But at the same time, the task force was a team policing unit who were really, out in force with their racist policies of, just grabbing our people and getting their names and asking them for passports and throwing them in the wagon if they didn't have any identity and all that. So my job was to give a hand out as many of those things to your rights in the police. So I used to do that. But then the cops would see me doing that, and they'd try and get me, and I'd be running down sides. They'd never catch me in Central Auckland, but yeah. So that was my little game with them at, doing that sort of stuff. But in that, I was at Betty Walks, and so they were all involved in politics. So I got tied up in all those sort of activities. And Betty took me up to Takaparawa, to Bastion Point. through her, we got jobs at what they called the Ponsonby Labour Co-op. So the Panthers introduced me, Tingy, in particular, Ama with Māori issues. So her name's, Tingi Launis and Miriama Rohi. Miriama, mother, has passed on now, but she taught me heaps. And so, especially around Māori, and especially about women. Women was a big thing about, she always jumped into me about respecting the woman, and don't you ever let me hear that you are disrespecting yeah. But I had, 4 sisters, Samoan sisters, so, and a mother that loved me. So, I had a lot of respect for women, growing up in that. But, so as I started going in that journey, I think it's 78, Keria, I think that's where I saw, that's where a lot of my mates who were in the boys' homes with me, and I'd been on the streets, a lot of them had become members of either the mob or the blacks, or prospecting for the mob or the blacks. Waikeria youth, it's a youth prison. I think there's at the time, there's like 500 young people in this, and everybody around you are talking about gangs, and and you see some violence, and you say, yeah, he's with the blacks, or yeah, he's with the mob, bro. And in your head is, wow, I wouldn't mind being, being with that dude, man. He's got some styles, So, a couple of my good mates were in the mob, and I met Nigga John down there, Roy, Wangtang, Toko Manahi, all these guys, they just become part of your life growing in that world, and but I had heard that the King Cobras were up and, were happening in my hood. So I got out and had a look, and I said, yeah, because heaps of Pacific boys in there, and especially from that hood, and you know them, you know. So that was me then, I'm not going to say I'm an expert about the history of the King Cobras, but the King Cobras went through some different stages, but they were always there, around Ponsonby, Greyland. And so the chief that's there now, the Koinga is, I won't mention his name, but everybody understands what I'm talking about. The Koinga was right throughout that era. So they went through different stages, I feel, along the way. Lots of things happened, jail, a lot of them went to jail, and boys' homes as well. So, they went through a low period and then came back up again, and then a lot of them started opportunity needs. There was other different gangs in central Auckland that were starting up. But in the main, the King Cobras have always been involved with all that. And then they came up again in 1978. So when they started again in 1978, 1979, and moving forward, we were just, became members, and that was in the central area. It was funny because we had chapters everywhere. We had, in central Auckland, we had Newton, who were predominantly Tongans. We had Ponsonby, Grey Lynn, Kingsland chapters for central Auckland. So moving forward, obviously it became bigger and bigger, and so by the time I was involved with a lot of that activism, still getting involved with the Panther stuff, and by the time 1981 came around, the Springbok tour, everybody was starting to gear up for the Springbok tour. It was pretty much full on. Our koinga at that time, also gave us blessings to be part, because these are things that, gang members don't get involved with, so-called gang members. But, some of us are very, we were passionate about rights, not only for Indigenous, but for ethnic minorities, not just here, for all around the world. But it was that year too, 1981, that we were hearing that the skinheads were starting to stand up in Auckland, and from 1980 to 1981, there were little running battles between some of our boys and some of them everywhere around the city, and it got to the point where, hey, is this going to become a problem? Is this becoming a problem, or that sort of attitude? That sort of, all right, what's happening? And then one night they caught one of our local boys. Yeah, gave him a bit of a touch up and scarred him up for a blade, and so I was like, oh yeah, okay. They took it to another level. Oh, all right, yeah. So me and a handful of King Cobras, we went down for a mediation corridor with them, and it didn't turn out very well, and I ended up doing 3 years for GBH. Yeah, well, it sort of put the handbrake on them becoming any bigger in the city, in my opinion. And so I was out on bail when all that stuff happened with the Springbok tour for that GBH. And so, I got a lag for the GBH, and on top I got the lag for the Springbok tour too. I was only young. I think I was only 19 or 20, and then at this stage, and I'm so glad that I had that whakapapa, I had the background whakapapa with the boys in jail and my life up until that stage, because that really, really helped when it came to all of us going to jail. Because, there was a lot of anger in jail, as you can imagine, the inmates were pissed off because while they were watching the game, these guys from they called themselves the H-Block Committee. They were supporters of the IRA here in Aotearoa, and a bunch of mischief white boys, but they went and cut the cable for Waiataro transmission. I was bunked up with a mobster named Nigger John, and we were bunked up in the East Block, and he said to me, "Bro, so your mates came?" I says, "What mates?" He says, "Those guys that cut the bloody transmission, they're bloody upstairs there. Everybody wants to kill them." I said, "Oh, what?" So in the morning, I got the screws to unlock me first, early, about 5:45 before everybody else. And I says, "Take me upstairs to these guys." So they took me upstairs and they unlocked these guys, and these two was in the cell together. They were just like, they thought that was it, because they'd been waiting for it. They'd been there for maybe 3 days together. I walked in and I said, "Are you guys for their Waiataro thing?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm with the Patu squad." "Oh, are you?" I went, yeah, mate. I says, "Look, they're going to lock us up for breakfast soon. Come down and have breakfast." And they went, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, you'll be okay, So, so that was my life, moving forward. I just immersed myself in the King Cobra game life, and it was what it was, moving forward. Loved the brothers, in a lot of sense, the brothers, the club reconnected me back with my Samoa, because I was really like that with it. It was like, for a long time for me, I was just being a gang member, so me and me and the club, we parted ways back in 90, I think it was 91. I've been in the club for just over 12, maybe 13 years, and yeah, moving on and tried different things, and yeah, always on the edge, you know. We're always on always thinking about, you know, how to survive, you know. So yeah, so done a few big legs in the 90s. Do you think that, you know, sometimes you say to yourself, oh, that's all good, man, you know? It's like, fuck, it is what it is, you know? We are what we do, you know, and that's the consequences of some of our activities, eh? We always know, you know, if you're in that world, you always know that the jail will be the hazard of the job, or death. You know, those are always going to be the hazard of the job or of that particular environment. You know, an old crim friend of mine, he said to me, you know, bro, if you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, oh, I can't do another leg, you should get out of it. That's when you should get out of it. And the reason why his rationale behind that is that because if that's what your thoughts are, if that's what you're thinking, the next time you get caught, you're going to talk. You know, so he said, so always remember that when you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and you think you can't do another leg, get out of the business. He was staunch, you know, he's one of the old school inmates way back, and I sort of caught the end of that old school inmate attitude. Don't talk to screws and all that sort of stuff, you know. I remember doing the legs in the 70 and 80. Man, you just couldn't talk to a screw without getting a visit the next morning or then later that afternoon, you know. You just, not even to say hello. It was just unheard of, you know. And so the screws themselves, they knew this too. They don't say hello to you, you know. It was like, just do your job, you know. And I'll take any criticism over this, but arguably, I think the Pacific Island inmates have changed a lot of the way prison environment has changed. A couple of things for me is that a lot of our Pacific people, their culture, their way of life is underpinned by God and the Bible and church, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in an environment like jail, when they tell the truth to the screws, you know, for us, older ones, from the old days, from the old ways, are like, bro, fucking knacking? What the hell? It's strong too. You know, our boys in there, you know, they're very strong. You know, they're very strong physically, they're very strong mentally, and especially if you pick on, you know, our own, because, you know, for a long time there, we were a minority in there, and in some cases still are, but we will band together to help each other out, you know. I think for myself, you know, like, we reflect back on the 35, 38, maybe, yeah, good part of 40 years in that life. There was lots of things that I regret doing, but I understand why I done it, if that makes sense. You know, it's like going back to the state, the way the state looked after us. You know, there's a big one for me, because, you know, through all that state care, there's just no love shown, there's no care, there's no, you know, as children, I guess, as children, that's something you should always give them, you know, whether they're 1, 4, 8, you know, to a point where they learn, you know, if you teach your children how to love properly and be caring of other people and their spaces, no doubt when they become an adult, whenever that is, 18, 20, they'll also have those values as well, and automatically goes down to your grandchildren if they have any. And so when you miss that, you start to create your own vision. And I've said this sometimes. I've said this at different places in time. Is that you start creating your own vision of love, and then how does that look like in your eyes, And sometimes, it's it was really difficult for me to say that word and to talk about that, because it wasn't part of my environment growing up. In particular, your formative years, and as a child growing up, my sisters might disagree, but I was her favourite. She loved me, she showed me all the love a mother could, and but by the time I got to stay care, by the time you're in those environments, that love is not constant no more, and it becomes a distance. Then it becomes no more. You don't hear your mum anymore because now she's gone, and so you turn and you face what you got, and you think, okay, survival of the fittest, is it? Yeah, no good having love here. Yeah, it's a weakness. You will die if you try to talk love around here. So you harden your heart, you harden your soul, you harden your mind. Yeah, and then you just become who you are. That pathway's taking you. So, you're walking down a pathway, to say care, and everybody's going here, nobody's going there, everybody's going there, and you're going there. And if you think about mainstream society, that's the same, mate. Like your family, you follow your parents. Do what your parents do, and in the main, it's very good things, and love and all the kind things, but in that environment, state care, there's nothing, and there's nobody showing you this. And so with you and a bunch of thousands and thousands and thousands of boys are just creating your own environment, based on how you were treated. And so when you get abused, when you're getting, picked on and bullied, and you create, you always hear this around survivors, we're resilient. That's where the resilience comes from. That's from pushing back against that, because you get to an age you go, fuck off, no more. Touch me, you're getting a shiver in your heart. You come near me, you get a baseball bat over your head. It just becomes, fuck, that's not happening to me. What they did to me, you're not doing it to me either, mate. And then even to the cops, the cops, unfortunately, don't understand the background of a lot of our whānau, especially in the gang world, but not in gang world, but in the whole criminal scene. A lot of them come from a pathway of state care, and then when they take them outside a pub just to get their names and address, they don't understand to us that have been in their world, that's antagonistic. Fuck, I was just sitting here having a beer and you're fucking pulling me out, and you think about your state care, and they're just pulling you out and just dictating to you, you just, so can I have a word with you? Straight away, what for? Last time I had a word with you, I ended up in the boys' home. Last time I had a word with you, I ended up in the watch house. Last time I had a word with you, now fuck you, I don't want to talk to you. All right, you're under arrest. It's just, it just becomes that sort of relationship. Yeah, listen, for people that have done a lot of our, have been down our pathway, and there's a lot more doors open now, eh? there's a lot more our people out there trying to do right, do good things and heal our people. For me, I 2010, I had been doing P for about 10 years by then. I just got myself off it with my partner, and that's the strength, is when you got a strong partner, who changed the way I love. She taught me a different meaning of love and the way to love, and so the support's there. And a lot of our whānau in the gang and criminal environment, they don't have that. But that is key, to surround yourself with people that really love you, like your kids. But for those who are still struggling and still wanting to come to terms with what happened to them, there's a lot of our whānau out there now doing that mahi. You've got the Hikoi Nation, who helped put that gang hui together. You got Unity in Our Community, which is up there. These are all organisations that have our people, if you like, the gang whānau. And then you got the Grace Foundation, David Natalia and them. So you got a lot of people doing these sort of mahi now that have been there and done that. But, still, we still need to push for more of that to happen, for all those resources to be, reinvested into those organisations to help them. And these are the people that, for those of us that are struggling, that are, want to look to heal, absolutely, at any time you can reach out. If I can help you in any way, just in the abuse and care, we have an 0800 number, 0800 222 727. If you want to talk directly to me, just tell the call centre there, ask for me, give your name and the number, and I'm happy to take your call. The biggest thing I find in state care is that all our whānau that's been in state care haven't separated the trauma, so they work and they live and they with trauma every day of their lives, and that affects the way they behave, it affects the way they do things. And so, for me, if we can start to heal a lot of their trauma moving forward, it'd be great. It'd be great all round for this country, for Aotearoa, for ourselves first, for our communities, our whānau, our communities, and in general, it will help right across this country, about how we treat our vulnerable, and they always say that, right? They always say, a society is always measured by the way they treat their vulnerable, and right now, our vulnerable aren't being treated right. Our children, even today as we speak, they're in state care, aren't being looked after. And so we need to change that. And that's why the Royal Commission is important, to be a voice, to be a vehicle for those voices. And so therefore we can make strong recommendations to the government about how they should care for our children moving forward, because, without those voices to tell us, we can't just make this up. What we put in our reports and what we put in our recommendations reflects the voices that we heard. And we understand that it's hard for people to come forward. And that's fine, but there are different ways we can engage with our survivors. Reach out to me if you want to do that. But, be strong. Be strong, those that have come in our way and are trying to find their way through all this trauma and haze. Reach out to people, ask for help, learn to love well. And just be at peace. Sometimes it's really hard when you get angry and frustrated, and sometimes just try to find a space in your head just for their peace, and go there and just sit there and sometimes thinks about things, and and be strong in yourself. There's hope. There's always hope.